What is up? What is up? What is up? What is up? Live. All right. Rock and roll. I believe we are live. Welcome to Jumpstart Sessions. So, we've got some good topics to cover on today's Jumpstart Sessions. I think that you will find this valuable. One of the things, for me is really to provide as much behind the scenes as possible, be as transparent as possible, share things that, quite frankly, I wish were shared with me, because obviously, social media and everything can just be a highlight reel of people's lives, and all we can tend to talk about are the great things that happened, and we glaze over the bad things that happen. But I would love to share some of those things, having been in business for over 13 years. Appreciate it. Likes and love. I see it there. Thank you, guy. Awesome, Jordan. Thanks for being here. Yeah, if it's your first time, please let me know. This is going to be a good one. Do these Jumpstart Sessions to provide a greater level of clarity, confidence, and connection. The goal is to empower you to be able to make your own decisions for your business, for your life, so that you can do more of what you love, have more clients that you love, do more work that you love, make more money, all those great things. So for me, being in business for over 13 years now, I started in high school. Didn't go to college, filmed my first wedding right at the end of my senior year in 2005. Since then, shot over 300 weddings, specialized in the same-day edit, shot my first same-day edit in 2006, filmed dance recitals, graduations, Pentecostal church services, film transfers, photo montages, funerals, and just about everything else. And then in 2010, reached out to Tim Ferriss, author of the 4-Hour Workweek, got to work with him, then worked with Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and Lewis Howes and Pat Flynn and all sorts of other really cool people. So it's been quite a ride. And I'll never forget a lady that I worked with. She said, "Have you really had any issues?" And I'm like, "Well, no, not really. I haven't really had that many issues." And she said, "Just wait." That's what she told me. Just wait. It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy from this lady. She goes, the more business that you do, the more people that you deal with, you're bound to potentially have some issues. And I found that to be true. I don't know that it's just she planted it in my mind, but, no matter how you do business, no matter how you treat everybody as equal as possible, no matter how you do your absolute best for people, you care for people, you're going to run into people that you just, quite frankly, you can't make happy, which is going to tie into my my first topic at hand here. Now, this mainly, I would probably say almost 100% of we're going to talk about 4 topics. What being 9 months behind delivering clients' videos taught me, supply and demand for pricing, when to say no, and what almost going bankrupt taught me. So we're going to dive deep here on some subjects that hopefully provide some peace of mind for each and every single one of you. So when I say clients, this was more or less wedding clients. There was a part of my career where I was delivering upwards of 10 videos. And one of those videos was a same-day edit, but then I had all these other videos. And because my business wasn't just wedding videos, everything that I did got very prioritized. And so, when I had people that had these inherent very specific deadlines, as in, somebody's having a gala or some kind of thing where they're, it's on September 21st and you've got to do the videos and have them to show on September 21st. You got to have that stuff done on September 21st. They're never going to do business with you again if you can't get it done in time, right? And that word of mouth will be really bad. But the flip side of that is the deadline for a couple, even though we had contracts, we had all these things, the deadline for the couple was showing up that day and filming. That was the ultimate deadline. I had to be there that day, had to film the wedding. That's very obvious. Now, on top of that, I did the same day edit. But I offered all these other videos. There was in the industry at the time, I know it's changed a lot, but ultimately, I was being told by other people in the industry there was all these other videos, long videos, and everything I needed to do. But I really, and this is why I love studying people's personalities and behaviors and helping them hone in their business to what's best for them. Because for me, I just don't love editing. And I was still super young and naive, and my business didn't really have any great mentors yet. And so I'm sitting here procrastinating on editing all these other videos that I promised people. So although the biggest thing I want to say is what it taught me is, one, get help for the things that you don't like to do. At the end of the day, it didn't cripple my business. There was more than one couple who was 3, 6, 8, 9 months behind for me delivering their other videos. And on top of that, there was a time where I was adding in some pictures, I was letting them pick the music, and those things also slowed down the process. And other things that happened was, if I didn't receive payment in full before the wedding, also having people not have the money anymore. They've spent money on their honeymoon, they start having kids, they start having all these other things, and all of a sudden the wedding video became less important. But what I want to say is that get help for the things that you effectively don't really want to do, because this could have been very detrimental. And I think depending on the kind of work you're doing and who you're doing it for, now I'm not going to lie, luckily they had the same day edit, and what came to fruition in my business is people watched and loved the same day edit more than anything else. So these other videos they got, whether they got them in 3 weeks or whether they got them in 3 months or they got them in a year, they were really watching the same day edit the most, no matter what. And so it wasn't crippling to my business. I know that I probably definitely lost some word of mouth on some of those people where I was very far behind, but at the same time, it didn't cripple my business. And so I think sometimes we think that we're being looked at with a magnifying glass, when the reality is we are and we aren't. But I think our political climate and all sorts of other things on this planet can tell us that on certain levels, it doesn't matter what you do, you can still rise above. Even like Robert Downey Jr. from Iron Man, he went through a really bad time. And so I want to give this peace of mind, because a couple of the topics we're covering here are things that could be a little scary, and you fill in the blank for you of what could be that thing that you're really worried about, and it's going to crush or devastate my business, or what's going to happen. Big hole, but got to know about full-time filmmaker. And so it's interesting because, like I said, the biggest thing is getting the help with the things that essentially you don't want to do, and then realizing that nothing's going to necessarily devastate your business. There's been a number of things that happened in my career that you could think, oh my God, this is gonna put me under. And if you still at the core show up, do your best, take care of people, be honest. I mean, that was one thing that I avoided a lot of conflict and confrontation, whereas people were typically very understanding, because once I did get on the phone and have the conversation, they were understanding, because they did have videos. Thank God they had the same day edit, but they were busy. They had things going on. They wanted it, but there wasn't a specific deadline like there was with commercial clients, where they had specific deadlines. I'm not endorsing or saying that it is okay. Again, I'm saying that it won't, not to do it. Here's the ways to circumvent it, but at the same time, knowing that there's going to be things that happen sometimes in your career, and not to beat yourself up endlessly about it, and that you can still survive these challenges. So in regards to supply and demand for pricing, when it comes to pricing, one of the surefire things I've found, and this is where I think people struggle at times, is because they go too high too fast. And if your work quality is there and the demand starts happening and it's working for you, because this is the biggest thing I'd ask sometimes, is it working for you? That's what you always have to ask. Good or bad at times, it doesn't matter, but is something working or not working? And that's what you have to ask, because some people will say, well, don't do that. But if it's really working for you, then just because it didn't work for somebody else, or people saying it shouldn't work, doesn't mean it doesn't work. But one thing I find is there's a lot of people out there who, essentially don't have that much work, but they're automatically going to, oh, well, this is what I'm valued at. I get it. But the greatest way to build up confidence and build up belief and build up your ability to get bigger rates is to just do a lot of work to begin with. Get out there and, build your network, make connections, build relationships. And by doing these things, you'll start building a demand. And when you start to have more demand than you have supply, that's freedom at times, because now you have a lot more control over pricing. You can decide whether or not you want to hire people. There's a lot of great things that come from supply and demand. So more demand than you have supply, you have a lot of control, especially in something like the wedding industry. If you've reached a point where you get 8, 10 leads for the same date, it's a lot easier to stick to certain prices. But if you get 8 to 10 leads for the whole year, you kind of want to do what you can do to get those weddings, right? And that's where I'm a firm believer in context. What is the context for where you're at in your business? Because depending on what kind of clients you're going after, depending on where you're at in your career, depending on what you're already charging, depending on how much demand you have, these little nuances at times will dictate what you should charge, when you should say, we'll tie that into now, when should you say no? What's up, Tristan? What's up, buddy? If you're enjoying this, give me some likes and love. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in. Try to always go to some of those. So when to say no? A couple times. I think that one big thing is, there's a couple ways to go about this, because, when to say no. Well, what are we saying no to? Well, I think that no is something that if you reach a point of total and absolute over demand, like there's just too much going on. Now, some of you are like, I'd like to have something going on, and I completely understand. But that's why, again, the no, I believe, it's more powerful when you first get out there and you potentially do say yes. Now, depending on your situation, I love it. Depending on your situation, again, where are you at in your career? And where are you at in your life? If you've got a wife, I always say 5 kids. I see the number 5 right now, but also it seems like I coach a lot of people who have 5 kids. But if you got a wife and 5 kids and your wife stays at home with the kids and you're working, figuring out what you want to do and the kind of work you want to do and the clients you want to do is of utmost importance, because you're going to have limited time versus the kid that's potentially 20 years old that might live in his parents' basement and needs $500 a month to survive. He might have a lot of free time. And so that person can go out and try a lot of things, say yes to everything, go and do a shoot, 300 miles away from their home for $200, and it doesn't matter, right? But if you're in a different situation, carving out, and knowing the kind of work, like sometimes we have that gut thing where we know immediately what we don't want, like, no, I don't want to do this. And yesterday we were talking about a little bit about, well, when I get that meh job, that, I don't know, this isn't a great job, or they didn't want to pay a certain amount of money, or they don't want this, or they don't want that. My argument is do it anyways. Potentially get the job, say yes, do what they want if you're at that place in your career, but also show up and make what you want to make. Use that example client, that ability to have a client in front of you, to have some work, and essentially go out there and make the best video. Make the kind of video you'd want to make. Now, again, do what they want while simultaneously doing what you want. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. So Tristan says, this summer I feel this is my breakout year. Did one wedding for free in December and was the media guy for a local hockey team. Now I have a dozen bookings so far for the rest of the year. Absolutely. So and I'll just kind of digress here for a second because, I never know who pops in when and what they've heard. So Tristan, one of the things, I've been talking about with people is strategic partners. So in weddings, for example, there's the wedding planner potentially. There's the photographer. There's the florist. There's the DJ. There's the wedding, ceremony venue. There's the reception venue. There's a number of different vendors that you can essentially become what I call, a strategic partner with. So this ability, what I would do for free work is strategically do free videos for them because they're all people who have the clients you want. I mean, I think as Adam Trigg in the group, was saying he's a DJ and, something like 40 to 60% of the weddings he does doesn't even have a videographer, which I hadn't heard that stat in a while. I've been throwing that around and it seems to still be true. And so that means you don't have a product problem potentially. You've got an eyeballs problem. There's not enough to go around. It's that there's not enough people that know that they even want it right now, and not enough people you're not being found. And so a lot of times the photographer, the venues, the wedding planners, these things are honestly booked before or even entirely without a videographer. And so the ability to partner with these kinds of people who are getting booked first, who if they love you and you create this phenomenal experience for those people and you've potentially done promos. So now these promos sit on their social media, sit on their website. And the people might go, well, who did your video? Well, as a matter of fact, this really awesome wedding videographer. I love working with them. And again, when you create a great experience, people want to work with you. They want to refer you because it makes them look good. Because referrals happen the most because it makes, like, if I refer you to somebody that I know is an incredible person that's going to blow your mind, you're going to remember that I was the one who made you feel good, that I was the one who took care of you. And so I like to be that kind of trusted friend and advisor, but I got a lot of my leads and bookings from my competition and from other vendors. The more people you can get talking about you, but the easiest way to do it, make friends with them, be friendly with them, go to lunch with them. While you're on site, strategically do videos for them. They don't have to be super fancy, but just get some extra footage while you're already there that day. So many times there's things right in front of us and we don't take advantage of it. And so I would just say take advantage of what's right in front of you. And that can apply to a lot of different things where you can, if you're not doing weddings and you're doing more commercial work, there's SEO companies, there's ad agencies, there's web design, there's different companies who, what does a great web design company need? They need great photos and they need great video on there. And so if they can strategically partner with somebody who does great photography or does great video, that's a win-win, and vice versa, right? If you've got a client, then they need a revised website, that's a great having that person to refer and back and forth. And that'll help with the supply and demand because now there's always people out there who have gone ahead and paved the way and essentially is doing really well. And, at least what I've found through the years is that they're not always referring people. They, one, either don't think about it, or two, more times than none, they're not actually that happy with people that they've worked with. It feels like there's a lot more, and I think Adam Grumbo was posting about this, there's a lot more people who just, they don't care. They don't do good work. They're not pleasant to be around. They're not pleasant to work. They don't respond to emails. They're the person that I was at one point in time, 9 months behind delivering things, and you don't create a great reputation that way. And so as a byproduct, people don't typically have somebody that they highly refer and highly recommend because they haven't been that happy with the people that they've worked with. And it seems like because there's a lot of filmmakers out there who'd rather not be filming a wedding, who'd rather not be filming the thing they're filming. They'd rather be making a documentary. They'd rather be making a film, a movie. And so these other things just pay the bills. But if you treat these things as just paying the bills, well, you're going to be on an uphill battle the whole time. So, Ron, appreciate it, my man. And if you guys have any questions or thoughts, let me know. And the more topics and things you put in here, if I can talk on it, I will talk on it. If you ask the question, 99% of things, you'll have to see if you can stump me on the sense of something that I'm not willing to share unless you're just being kind of snarky about it. But I want to be transparent and open here and share things that I wish people would have told me, things that I wish people would have shared because they kind of hide behind things. So if you're liking it and loving it, give some likes and love. Share it with somebody in the group who you think would benefit, and rock and roll. So let's go about the last topic. So this last topic, up until 2000 and mid 2016, nobody really knew I had a debt problem, probably including myself. I literally spent every dollar as a collective whole on a line of credit, a loan, a credit card, borrowed money, whatever it was. I wasn't spending cash, and I wasn't spending using debit cards. So it's really easy to have a credit card with $15,000, put $15,000 on it that you don't have because maybe you only have $1,000 in the bank account, and then what happens? Well, next month, depending on your credit card and different variables, your payment's going to be somewhere between $180 and $300 or $400. And I started small and grew and grew and grew and grew till, not proud to say this, but I was paying more in interest than some people make a month. I had a few $1,000s a month in interest. I had almost $3,000 or $4,000 a month just in debt payments. And I always was able to figure it out until, I wouldn't say that I wasn't, but until I had this kind of awakening, like, oh my God, because people think it's more money, more money, more money, more money, and that'll give you freedom. Some of the most free people I know are, 23-year-olds who don't have any debt and don't have hardly any bills, and they make $2,000 a month but only need $800. They're more free than the person who makes $25,000 a month and, spends $24,500. Right? So it's not about the quantity of money that you're intaking and having. It's about the amount of money that you're actually keeping and profiting. Because true freedom, I know in my life that the reality is I've never made less than $1,000 for me personally since I was 19 years old. So there's never been a month that I've made less than $1,000 since then. There's never been a year that I've grossed less than $100,000 since 2008. But 2016 almost became that year where that was the year that I almost didn't break $100,000. And I was just digging deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. I was talking to bankruptcy attorneys because I finally talked to some people and they're like, you need to fix this. And the advice that I was being given was either don't pay my credit cards ever or go bankrupt. That was it. I had, I guess, near $150,000, $160,000 in debt. And, finally I had this awakening because I just kept finding more debt, getting a cosign, acquiring another credit card, whatever it was that I could do. That's what I was doing to keep paying the bills. And I was focusing more on debt than I was on even making money, which I had proven to do through the years. But it just had gotten so far that it was so heavy that I didn't realize it. And that the amount of money I was needing to pay my bills was $10,000, $12,000 a month just to break even. And I was pulling that off for a long time. But that's not flexibility. Some of you, it doesn't matter how much you're making. You're having that kind of, I'm barely getting by from month to month to month to month. And, there's zero buffer. You might not be getting by from week to week to week to week. So it's scary. And then that's what causes you to take on clients and projects and things that you're just not excited about. Why? Because there's dollar signs involved. Tristan's saying, don't have to answer, but was this from upgrading equipment or how and what did it spiral from? The beginning of it was gear. Quite frankly, guys, I have a, 65, 70-inch TV now at our house. And we paid like $900 for it. When I started and went to bridal shows, I had a 32-inch Sharp plasma or LCD, whatever it was at the time. I think it was like $1,600. A 500 gig hard drive was like $500. Now you can get like a 4, 5, 8 terabyte hard drive for a couple $100. I had a Canon GL2. That thing wasn't even HD, and that thing was almost $3,000. So everything that I bought gear-wise, it cost, what I could recommend to somebody now that could really get them going and have everything they need, because I say it's the wizard, not the wand, everything they need to really make money and do decent initially to get you going. I really believe for under $5,000, you could get what you need to make money and have people pay you. And, I had a buddy who had T2Is. He had like 3 of them for like 3 or 4 years of weddings, at least before he upgraded. He had enough momentum in his company, had enough cash flow and good money coming in that then he upgraded to the Sony A7 IIIs. But he didn't immediately go out and spend $30,000 on gear before he even knows how to make any money with it. And that's how a lot of people then end up, because now you do have that. You've managed to either, drain your savings. And it's amazing to me more people spend more money on gear and technology and all that than they will on mentorship and coaching and things like that. Because I believe you get your mindset right, it's game over no matter what you do and what industry you're in. But yeah, it was a combination of gear and upgrades like that. I had a Steadicam Pilot at one point in time. It was like a $4,500 vest, arm, whole thing. And I hardly used it. And I ended up just using my GlideCam 2000 and just a lot of little things like that. Buying courses that I never used, $2,000 courses, getting a BMW 135i, when I probably shouldn't have. Just a lot of random spending, but beliefs are so powerful, and I believe things can become, like I said, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And when I started my company, I said, the difference is, if I'm going to do what I love, I have to just get by, and if I want to make a lot of money, it'll be mean being miserable. The interesting thing is, I made $4,000 my junior year, $8,000 my senior year, $60,000 the first year out, $40,000 the second year, over $100,000 the year after that. But no matter how much money I made, I was always getting by. I always got by. But I was increasing my expenses when I increased my income. And I was making everything so external. Now it's like, yeah, I'd love to know what you spent that on, Ron, too, and if you're getting a lot of value on it. For me, the things I offer and the things I love the most are versions of more one-on-one and intimate. I think that, Parker's got something phenomenal. He's, after filming for thought leaders and speakers and trainers and coaches for a long time and seeing the behind the scenes of their courses, Parker has created some of the best curriculum and best educational content that I have seen that you can really learn from and get sucked into and get a lot out of, and is taught really, really well. A lot of things are just not good. And I think that there's less nuance. I think the business side, there's a lot more nuance than there is potentially in the technical. I think in the technical there is, but I've seen really great people with the right mindsets, attitudes, personalities, and sales skills who don't have that great of work do better than people who are excellent at the technology, the editing, and all that. And so for me, it's been that ability to have a simple shift. That's why we're going to start doing it. If you guys want to do it, I'm squaring a few things away. I'm planning to hopefully start doing them next week. I've got about 7 or 8 of you signed up right now to do one-on-one Jumpstart sessions. For the right now future, because they're going to be kind of podcasts in public. These are free, because some have asked me, how much are they going to cost? Well, they're going to more than likely cost in the future, and you're definitely not going to get multiple calls, but you get that first call, and the goal is to just pour into. This isn't some hold everything back and disguise it as a sales call or anything like that. I've done like 13 or 14 lives in the group so far. If you can't, go back and look at all of them. And, if you take the time to watch them, I'm definitely here to serve and help and take care of people. So we're going to start doing those, because you can start seeing individuals' kind of problems and challenges and difficulties and struggles, and see how just that 2 millimeter shift can make a big difference. I had a guy once ask me about, or saw me say something about Facebook ads, and then misinterpreted what I said for wedding videos, and essentially spent like $1,000. So that was a waste of money. It didn't work. And I looked at his ad, and it was like 18 to 65, male, female, single, engaged, married, divorced, all over the world, whatever. And it was like, well, that's the issue. That was the issue. 22 to 29 female engaged in a 10-mile radius of where he lived. He booked a wedding in like 24, 48 hours. Now you could hear that and go, okay, I should book a wedding in 24 to 48 hours if I run that signaling. Well, there's other variables that go in. Is your work any good? Where are you sending them? What are you doing, right? These are the things that sometimes aren't talked about. We'll get back to the bankruptcy thing here. So that makes sense. Yes, T3I, that's where I am. I like the concept because it's so hard to train yourself to not jump out of your boundaries. I'm focusing on the practice and jobs this year, and next year invest in the 4K world. Yeah, that's what's so important. Invest so much in all the wands, right? But we don't know how to use the wand, so we can't get the results that Harry Potter can get. Whatever analogy you want to give, the pencil that Stephen King used, the golf clubs that Tiger Woods has. We can have all these things, but that's not going to make us all the things that these people are, right? Having the same cameras and everything that Parker or anybody else you look up to has will not make you them. That was one of my biggest learning things, tying in the bankruptcy one, but one of my biggest learning things was just like endlessly for the first probably 4 or 5 years of my business, thinking that if I bought or used the editing or used the filter or used the music or did these things that other people did, I was going to win. I was going to get more money. And the reality was that just wasn't true. The relationships and my ability to connect, my ability to sell, but rather than sell, serve. These things made the big difference. If you guys got questions or thoughts, please leave them in here. For those of you popping on right now, this is Jumpstart Sessions. I've been doing these while I'm around as much as I can, Monday through Friday in the group. The goal is to give you greater clarity, confidence, connection, and empower you to be able to make your own decisions and be more resourceful yourself and have this kind of figure outableness about you. Because I think that when we develop that mental game, we develop that the right mindsets, we can figure anything out and we can make things happen. And we won't always need somebody else to tell us, because if we're always looking for somebody else, we're going to be stuck when that somebody else isn't there. So anyways, if you're enjoying this, give some likes and love. I always love to see that you guys are enjoying this, and you, there we go. And if you have any questions or thoughts, pop them in there. So One of the interesting things that I want to share about what I ended up doing with the debt as well is that ultimately I didn't end up going bankrupt. I basically, I didn't pay any of the credit cards for about, I guess about 3 months. I didn't pay anything. Nothing bad happened. Of course, my credit score went to crap, which, it's back up to over 700 now. So that is not the end of the world. It doesn't matter if you have a great credit score. If you don't have any money, you can't pay the bills anyways. And so ultimately didn't pay them for a few months. I found that then everybody bent over backwards to do things for me. Most of the credit cards went to 0% interest and payoff plans. So I'm 3 years into a 5-year payoff plan on a lot of these credit cards. A few went to 2 or 3%, but I had to cancel them. But an interesting mental shift happened because I kind of finally looked and said, well, this is all I really like. Not that we can't make unlimited amounts and be in an abundant mindset and do all those kind of things. But I started to realize it was none of the materialistic things that were going to bring me fulfillment and happiness. And so it wasn't the need of more. It was being happy with less and still being able to do more and grow. And so I saw and felt what it would feel like to be debt free and realized, man, I've been making what I need, what I really need since I was like 19, 20 years old. So if I keep making what I've been able to make while only needing what I really need, I'm putting a lot away, right? And so it's a powerful thing. And so, the other interesting thing is if we keep focusing on lack, we keep focusing on what we don't have, then what I found is when I kept focusing on debt, when I focused on the lack, I just got more lack and I got more debt and I attracted all the negative and all the bad. And when I finally made this just shift, and it just happened, I can't explain it. I think a lot of us have had those kind of moments in different areas of our life where something in a moment just shifts. And we can't fully ever know why it was that time and not the 8 times before it or the 80 times before it. But when I stopped focusing on debt and started focusing on what I did know how to do, was generate money and generate events and things, it was amazing what started to happen. I mean, I brought in almost $50,000 worth of jobs in probably 90 days. And they just were lining up perfectly. And it was incredible. And God, the universe, whatever you believe in, it was just me kind of declaring what it is that I wanted to do, I was turning 30, getting married, and I had to take care of things. So I got really serious and real clear. Clarity is power. And knowledge can be power, but without action, it's kind of useless. And so, it's a shift that can be made, and it can be so powerful when you're clear. I just had a buddy I've been coaching for a while now, and he's gone back and forth through a number of things. He's always had a safe job and safe career, but he's always wanted to do his own thing, but he wasn't able to put really the effort, time, and energy into making it happen. And plus, he's not necessarily a sales guy. He doesn't love that. He shoots all right. He's not bad, but he doesn't love shooting as much as he loves editing. And finally, after a number of years, he declared about 3 or 4 weeks ago when I was with him in New York, I'm an editor. I said, man, you're always bringing up editing. It always, 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 always comes back to editing for you. It's like if you didn't need money, you'd be editing. He goes, absolutely. He goes, I'm going to bet on myself finally. And thanks to you and other people believing in me and supporting me, I'm going to bet on myself. It was amazing. Within 2 weeks, he just had 2 meetings in one day for 2 different, one's to edit on a Netflix series and another one's to edit for like AMC and A&E and be an editor. The meetings went amazing. He's going to find out by the end of the week whether he gets one of them. He believes he's going to get them. And now he's going to have a career and a job editing, doing the one thing that he loves to do more than anything. So he doesn't have to keep selling new editing jobs over and over again. He now just gets to show up every day and edit. And so that's why I always tell people, what do you really want to do? What do you really love doing? And I really believe if you're willing to dream a little, if you're willing to create a little bit of a vision, amazing things can happen. They might not happen in an instant, but if you stay constant, they will happen. And I think if you remove the how they'll happen even faster because you'll be open to the things, to the ebb and flow, but the destination, the goal will ultimately end up happening, even though the way you thought you were going to accomplish that goal wasn't the way that you ended up accomplishing it. But when you get crystal clear on what you want and you start telling people that, it's amazing the things that happen because then when you're talking to people, people easily understand you. When you tell your friends or you work with people, they easily know how to recommend you. Because when you're that kind of, I don't know what I do, I don't take it that seriously, I'd really like to do it, but I'm not that good at anything, but I like everything, but I want to do this and I want to do that. And believe me, I know the feeling really, really well of having a million ideas, a million things you want to do. At times I'm still, even right now, there's levels of battling with it. I know that I love coaching and I love mentoring and I love one-on-one work and I love speaking and I love doing this, but there can be different, methods and ways of delivering that. And so it's finding the one that works best for me. And I call this, again, if you're loving this, give it some likes and love. If you have any questions or thoughts, let me know. If you have any yeah buts or you have any scenarios, leave them in the comments. I love to interact or have the ability to, some of you may be driving. And as I said too, I'm really excited. We're going to be turning this into a podcast soon. And so the podcast episodes will be solo type of things like this. I may start doing shorter ones. I'd be curious. Any feedback from you guys, if some of you have been on here multiple times, any feedback is welcome of what you're digging, what you're not, what you want more of. Because one of the things I'm thinking is I've been having on roughly 4 topics. They usually kind of tie together, but I'm thinking about doing shorter episodes on just singular topics, a little easier to digest the simple topic. And then we'll have, so the solo stuff, and then we'll have, potentially some guests, but then mainly like Jumpstart Sessions for one-on-one actual kind of coaching sessions that you can observe. And, I think we can learn a lot from other people and where they're at and what they're struggling with. And you can see that you're not alone, because a lot of people, I think that they are alone. They think that they're the only one going through this. They're the only one struggling. They're the only one that something's not working out for. And so, I think when we start to see other things, we realize that we're not alone. And there's a lot of people that have the challenges and the difficulties and the struggles, and people are afraid to share it. I mean, I didn't even share debt. I don't even think outside of maybe my mom and my now wife knew I had any debt problems, because I was ashamed of it. I didn't want to talk about it. Now what I realize is I'm like a human guinea pig. So the fact that I love to serve and I love to help and I love to coach and I love to mentor is that, shit happens to me, and then, my goal is to learn something from it and then share it with others. Some people are very experiential, so you'll effectively have to learn yourself no matter how many times you're told, and others will go, absolutely, I will learn from that guy and learn from his mistake and not have to go that mistake myself. The more I can kind of remove the pain and remove some of the struggle, you'll have to go through some difficulties. You'll have to go through some hard times. You'll have to fail yourself, because we each have our own unique path, our own unique way that we're going to carve out for our life and our business. But we still can learn from other people. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to take action. I talk a lot about MIA, so massive imperfect action. This ability to realize that there's no such thing as perfection. Because unfortunately, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. And obviously on certain levels, I'm sharing a singular opinion of mine, while simultaneously I usually try to share both sides to the equation so you can make your own judgment of what resonates with you. But I found that through the years, you can show the same thing to 10 people. 5 might love it, 5 might hate it. Who's right, who's wrong? That's why with like editing, for example, on our clients, we like to just get the things to the client. I just got one of my edits from one of the things that I want to share, but it's very difficult to explain myself in English. Type as much as you can, my man, and we'll do our best, and I'll do my best to decipher what you say. The more you practice, the more you'll learn, and the better you'll get. But what we found is I just got a thing. Now, the video didn't have, there was a few things wrong with it. They weren't like, oh my God, but I knew that this client, they always have a few changes. So rather than my editor go back and forth for a day or two to do all these other tweaks, I just sent it right over. Boom, they tell me exactly what they need fixed and exactly what's wrong with it. We fix those things, we can move on, and we can get done, and we can move on to the next thing. It's not about doing a mediocre job. It's not about not doing your best. But what I found is we can get into this perfectionist mode, and when it's done here, we got to spend 5 more hours making it more done, even though maybe you now are like, I got to fix A, B, and C. But if you just send it to the client, you'd find out that the reality is they didn't even notice A, B, and C, and they just want X, Y, and Z fixed. So now you would have spent all that time fixing A, B, and C for it to not really matter, and then still have to fix X, Y, and Z. So appreciate it, Tristan, who's on here. Colin, Matthew, Melanie, Kimberly, Ryan, Ron, Jordan. Appreciate you all being on here. Again, if you're liking it, some likes and love. If you have any thoughts or comments, let me know. And it's been a blast doing these, and I hope they're providing a lot of value. We've got some cool things in the works. Still going to be talking to Parker about some stuff to collaborate, putting together some kind of a beta kind of mentorship program on the side of mindset and business. That we'll be getting some people in, like I said, doing these Jumpstart sessions with the one-on-ones with people. So if you're interested in any of that, let me know. And yeah, you can go in the search as well. And I've put these titles on these. That's why I think we're going to start segmenting them out. Because I know that right now the unfortunate thing is that at 30 minutes to an hour long, Facebook is not the best way to consume, which is why we're going to get them on a podcast and all that. And then hopefully you don't have to watch everything, right? My goal with all the different titles is that you're finding topics and things that you're struggling with. And the more you submit, the more those things can be covered, and, the things that you may be stuck on, because I can't read people's minds. So if you're truly, truly stuck on something, I find sometimes people have opportunities right in front of their face and they don't take advantage of them. What I found through the years is the mentor and coach that I try to be, and I know what Parker's tried to create, there's not many people that make themselves available in the way that some people do or that I'm trying to do. I found it very difficult to have the ability, like we're afraid to ask because we don't want to annoy and we don't want this and we don't want that. But there's some people I would have loved to been able to get answered questions from, and it's all supply and demand. So there's more potential supply than there is demand right now. So you're on that cutting edge of having the ability to get access and help that you wouldn't necessarily be able to normally get. So make sure there's no other things here. So hopefully that all makes sense for all of you today. Super grateful. I just know that the bottom line is there's always going to be struggles. There's always going to be difficulties. And there's always somebody who's potentially been through what you're going through. And when we can glean some info and some feedback and some wisdom from people who have walked in our steps, it's really, really powerful. So anyways, appreciate you all. If there's nothing else, there we go. Colin, rock and roll. Biggest pain points for me right now is workflow, scheduling my time, communicating with clients while making enough money. Perfect. And you've filled out the information. So we're going to be doing a one-on-one session here right now. But this is interesting because when to get help is something that, I think that depending on where your prices are at and depending on what kind of business you really want to have, there's a lot there, because I find that when we try to be Superman and Superwomen and do everything, we just run out of time. I mean, if you really think about it, you can do your best, which is what I try to teach as well, to simplify things down, to get to the most simplistic business. That's for me. It doesn't mean simplicity. Parker's proven simplicity doesn't mean necessarily it can't generate a lot of revenue, but different business models will have different capacities that you can do. But you can simplify things where it's not too crazy and not too overwhelming. Whilst other things, if you take on too many different things, too many things, and what I find is if you are a person who shows up and does your best, you might get projects for 500 that you spend as much time on as ones you're getting 5,000, and you might not like the 500 or the 5,000. It doesn't matter which one you like or dislike, but everything takes time, everything. And, if you're like me, I have a lot of tunnel vision. So for me, if I don't have certain help and support in certain areas, I'm not good at switching through a million different things. So I'll let things drop at times. And depending on how tolerant you are of willingness to let things drop and not worry about what happens, because there are positives and pros and cons to everything, you can potentially not hire people, or you can get people to fill in your weaknesses. So Con says, when you get help, that is the burning question. Yeah, and maybe that's the topic. This is why, chat is great, and I encourage you guys to submit things, because some things I can easily jam on, whilst the other things are going to be great for the Jumpstart sessions with you one-on-one, because then we can really spitball back and forth, and I can dissect into the specific situation that you have, and that can apply to other people. So, yeah, I think that'll be good. So that is the burning question. I will say that there was a time when I had more demand than I had supply. I knew going into January of 2011 that minimum I was going to make $80,000 to $100,000. And that year I was able to hire a guy. We went from $160,000 to almost $275,000 and almost $375,000 the year after that. And it's because I was an obtainer and he was a maintainer. So he was great at maintaining things. So imagine a bucket. I have a bucket, and when I'm alone and no help, the bucket has a bunch of holes in it. So it holds a little bit of water. That's my, have more demand. I have too many things going on, and the rest that comes in just flies through the bucket. When I got him, the bucket was able to patch up the holes and overflow in a positive way and create more jobs and opportunities for other people. So I was really young and naive at the time, so that didn't last. We're really good friends now, but he's at a different place. So there's another, learning experience to glean from. But anyways, awesome, man. Appreciate it, Colin. Excited to do that with you. I'll keep you posted. There's just a few more things I'm dialing in that I'm going to start scheduling. I actually got to reach out because there's an assessment I want everybody to take, because should have done it to begin with, but a lot of my coaching clients I do this with, but there's an assessment that I can have people take, and it kind of dials in the personality types and values and different things. And it really helps, because the more clarity you kind of have about your personality type, and I've seen, because my officiant at my wedding was a behavioral profiler, and I've been friends with him for about 5 years now. And so I've learned a lot about this. And, a lot of us are, a head of lettuce and we're using it as a hammer, or we're a hammer, and we're eating it. Find nails if you're a hammer, and find a freaking, salad, make a salad if you're a head of lettuce. Now, that's a metaphor, but the reality is we're fish climbing trees, and it just doesn't work. And the more you can get into your zone of genius, the more you're going to win. So, yep, rock and roll. If there's anything else, put it in there. Colin, looking forward to it. Anybody else who wants to be on, let me know. Send me a message, and we'll start getting those scheduled here really soon. And I appreciate it. Likes and love, rock and roll. And I always look forward to what you guys got out of these sessions, and any thoughts or comments that you have, and we will go from there. Have an amazing evening, and keep rocking and rolling. I'll talk to you soon.